Okay, so ready to dive in. Today we're going to tackle something pretty crucial in the construction world, especially if you're aiming for that Gold Seal certification.
You got it. We're talking project financials.
Specifically.
Specifically, how to manage all those costs, keep a handle on them from the very beginning of project all the way to the end.
Right, right. Managing all costs throughout the duration of the project. It's one of the
Hmm.
key activities for that. Be accountable and manage project financials subcompetencies.
Yeah, it's a big one for sure. And it's not just about keeping the project in the black.
Okay, so there's more to it than that.
Absolutely. This skill set, it demonstrates a deep understanding of how a project's financials work. It shows accountability, and it's something Gold Seal certification really emphasizes. Like, they want to see you can handle this stuff.
So let's break it down then. When we say manage all costs, what does that actually mean? Like practically, what are we talking about?
So it all starts with having a really, really solid budget, right? That's your financial blueprint for the whole project.
Okay, so like how detailed are we talking?
Super detailed. You need to know where every dollar is going, who's responsible for what. Think of documents like the CCDC 2 2020, the stipulated price contract.
Ah, okay, I'm with you.
Every cost, every responsibility, crystal clear right from the start. That's your foundation.
Got it. So everybody knows who's on the hook for what from day one.
Exactly.
But I mean, let's be real, projects rarely go exactly according to plan, right?
Oh, tell me about it. You got to be ready for anything. That's where cost tracking comes in. You need to keep an eagle eye on every single dollar you spend, comparing it to what was budgeted.
Okay, but how do you keep track of everything? I mean, are we literally talking about watching every penny?
Well, not every penny, but pretty close. And it's not just about looking at the overall cost for a category, right? We use these things called cost codes and phase codes. It's all about being specific.
Okay, so break that down for me. What are cost codes and phase codes?
Think of them as tags for your expenses. So instead of just lumping everything under labor, you might have separate codes for skilled labor, unskilled labor, and then maybe even overtime labor, you see.
Wow. Okay, so you're really breaking it down into granular detail.
Right. That way you can see exactly where the money is going, and if you're on track or not. It helps you catch those little overruns before they become big problems.
That makes sense. So you can adjust course as you go based on what the numbers are telling you.
Precisely. And that's especially important when you're dealing with things like, say, change orders.
Ah, change orders, the dreaded change orders.
Yeah, those can really throw a wrench into your budget. Client decides they want an extra feature midway through, or maybe the site conditions are different than expected, and bam, your costs go up.
That's a nightmare. So what do you do? How do you navigate those change orders without, blowing the whole budget out of the water?
Well, first off, documentation is key. Meticulously document everything. Make sure any change order is agreed upon in writing, that it aligns with the original contract.
Okay, so everything's in writing, everyone's on the same page. What else?
Well, this is where you really have to think about risk mitigation. It's about being proactive, identifying potential cost overruns before they happen, or at least as early as possible.
Okay, so like, what would that look like? Give me an example.
Say you see material costs are going through the roof. You got to have a backup plan, right? Maybe you look into alternative materials or renegotiate your timelines, or maybe even reallocate resources from another area of the project. It's all about being adaptable and thinking ahead.
I like that. So having a plan B, maybe even a plan C and a plan D.
Exactly. But, all this, it's no good if you're not communicating effectively.
Right, you can't just keep all this information to yourself, right?
Exactly. You need to keep everyone in the loop, especially your stakeholders. Regular financial reports, that's key.
Okay, so what kind of reports are we talking about?
Variance reports, for example, those flag any deviations from the budget. Then you've got cash flow forecasts, predicting the financial ebb and flow throughout the project.
So it's about transparency, basically.
100%. Transparency builds trust, keeps everyone informed, and avoids those nasty surprises.
Makes sense. Now, what about the subcontractors and suppliers? How do they fit into all of this?
Oh, they're a huge part of the cost management equation. Managing their payments, making sure they're adhering to the contracts, staying on top of all the legal requirements, that's all part of this ecosystem.
Wow, okay, so it really does touch every single aspect of the project.
It really does. And even when the project is finished, you're not done yet. There's a post-project review, reconciling all those final costs, and then really importantly, you got to learn from your experiences.
So take those lessons and apply them to the next project. Right. Continuous improvement.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory here, but let's bring it down to earth. How does all this translate to real-world construction projects?
Right, right. Well, those CCDC documents we mentioned, like the 2-2020 and the 5A5B for construction management contracts, those are your tools,
Yeah.
you know?
They're not just paperwork.
No way, they're frameworks. They help you put all these principles into practice.
Okay, so you need to understand the tools and how to use them effectively. Can you give me a specific example, maybe?
Sure. Think about progress payment applications, for example. You got to get those right. They're vital to keep a project financially viable. And then there are things like land holdbacks, which protect owners if subcontractors aren't paid properly. And then you've got change directives, which, I mean, those require a real delicate balance, you know? You're trying to manage costs while still accommodating those necessary changes.
Wow, it sounds like a real high-wire act.
It can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding, you know?
Yeah. And when it's done well, I mean, the benefits are huge.
Absolutely. It ensures the project stays on track, it builds trust through that transparency we talked about, and it protects your profit margins while minimizing those financial risks, you know, the kind that keep you up at night.
No one wants that. So
No.
to anyone listening out there who's serious about that Gold Seal certification, mastering this cost management stuff, it's not just a box to check.
Yeah.
It's the foundation for success in this industry.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Great.
And, you know, it's something to think about. Take a recent project you've worked on. Really think about it, you know? How did the cost management practices, the ones they used, how did they affect the outcome? What could have been done differently? Sometimes the best lessons come from our own experiences, you know what I mean?
That's a great point. Really good food for thought.
Mhm.
And hey, if anyone wants to dive even deeper into this, into Gold Seal certification, cost management, all that good stuff, there's a ton of resources out there, online, industry organizations, even more deep dives like this one.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and until next time, stay curious.